Am I the asshole for refusing to wear a wig in my brother's wedding? I, 23F, have decided not to wear a wig in my brother's wedding. When he proposed, I was thrilled. I cheered them on from my dorm room. But this wedding has stressed everyone out, and for me, it's come to a breaking point. At the first bridal event, the bride handed out experience packages for her bridesmaids up to $3,000, including a destination trip. I'm a recent college grad with an entry-level salary. We discussed hairstyles. The bridal party agreed on updos, given the humidity. Months later, the bride texts me that she changed the style and wants me to wear wig. I had recently done a big chop and dyed my natural hair, a major milestone for me. I asked if braids were okay. She said no, followed by texts about uniformity. I asked her to send wig details. She didn't for months. After her bridal shower, she asked if I'd bought a wig, told me the stylist cost, and when I didn't respond fast enough, she still signed a contract with the stylist. I tried to compromise. I'd install the wig myself and have the stylist style it. She said no, her stylist wouldn't work behind anyone else's install. I said I was uncomfortable with both the price and process. She replied, "Because you cut and dyed your hair, there are now extra costs for uniformity." Okay. In therapy, I shared how I've often felt like the family scapegoat. My boundaries equals defiance. My therapist said, when people get used to you performing, they raise the bar every time. My gut said, I'm not wearing the wig. I explained this to my parents. My mom called me selfish. My dad said, you were a child. You couldn't say no, then added, if the bride doesn't get what she wants, you're out of the wedding party. I texted the bride. She respected my decision, but I could support from the crowd. I responded, what stings is being told I can only stay if I change everything about how I show up. That's not unity. That's control. I love you, but won't disappear. She forwarded it to my family. She's been very controlling. Others have clashed with her and her maid of honor dropped out. My brother says she talks negatively about our family. When I brought that up, my dad shouted that no one's on my side and blamed my mental health. I was told I shouldn't attend the wedding at all. My brother said he didn't care if I was in the wedding party, which lifted some guilt. I told him I'll still show up as myself. Insert edit. The bride finally sent a message saying I was condescending. My choice was last minute. She's the center of this new chapter. The Bible says the wife comes first, and I kicked myself out. I responded with truth. I'd expressed discomfort early on. My words weren't cruel, they were clarifying. I shared scripture, Ephesians chapter 5. Respect goes both ways. I respect their marriage, but I respect myself more. She sent it to my brother. He texted me. I love you, but she comes first. If you can't fall in line, you're out. No more discussion. Am I the asshole for refusing to wear a wig and standing in my truth? Edit. I should note that once my brother said he didn't care if I was in the party, I agreed and said I would sit in the audience and support him. This is my only brother, sibling, so OFC I want to be in his wedding. Update. Hi, everyone. First, I just want to thank you all for your comments, insights, and support. This has been such a wild and isolating experience, and it's helped more than you know. I'm currently in a different state from my family but will be returning tomorrow. I got my hair done yesterday. A sew-in at a salon I have history with. It was a last-minute appointment, so the color turned out a bit louder than expected, but it's cute and professionally styled. Recently, the bride mentioned that colored hair was acceptable as long as it was in a ponytail. So I did just that. It fits me and I was glad that I invested in the style. Along with photos of my hair, I sent a message to my family and the bride. It was sincere and calm. I expressed that I wasn't trying to make this wedding about me, that being given an ultimatum over my own body felt frightening, and that I've never had an issue with the bride personally. But she doesn't get to control what goes on my head, especially if she isn't open to compromises or helping financially. My brother replied, you have eliminated your chance for recourse with how you have acted with everything. You're out. That's final. I replied, okay, I've been focused on taking care of my mental health and processing things in a way that's healthy for me. But when I called my mom tonight and asked about the wedding, she said the same things I've been hearing. That I'm being dramatic, trying to mess up the day, and that I'll make a big scene. She and my dad seem to be trying to stand up to me now, likely because they know how it might look if I'm not in the wedding. But it doesn't feel like it's coming from a genuineness. It feels performative. Some commenters asked if I had a relationship with the bride. I believe I've tried. I even opened up to her about a painful situation from college, something deeply personal and shaming. I was hoping for understanding or at least compassion. But tonight, my mom told me the bride is now uncomfortable having me at the wedding because of that vulnerability. Some people have said that my message to her when she kicked me out made it seem like I dragged this out. Maybe I did, but for me, marriage is deeply sacred. My parents have been married for almost 40 years, grandparents close to 70 years. And that legacy means something to me. I want to be married someday too, not just to have a wedding, but to build something real, lasting, and rooted in love. That's why I've given so many chances. That's why I've tried so hard to show up, even when I felt pushed aside. Because I cherish family. And I wanted to believe they cherished me too. You're not out of line for not wearing a wig and not being a bridesmaid. But I do feel you are making a big deal out of it. It sounds like they were okay with you not being a bridesmaid, your brother supported you. But it also sounds like you didn't do this in a quiet, polite way. It feels slightly like you are making this about you and stirring up bad feelings about the bride. That's not okay, especially as your brother seems supportive. Not the asshole bridesmaids aren't your personal ornaments to your wedding. They should be there because they are important people in your life and not because they are the best decoration for your photos. It's no surprise other bridesmaids are dropping. Personally, I would have not agreed to a wig at all, so the fact you've already tried to compromise on this is above and beyond what I think should be expected anyway. These people all sound shitty and you deserve better. Not the asshole. Continue with therapy and uninvite yourself from the wedding so you can focus on what and who matters most to you, starting with yourself. Not the asshole. You're not a doll, you're a person. The people chosen to be a member of a bridal party or groomsmen should be chosen because of the person they are and what they mean to the couple, not treated as ornaments who are only there out of obligation or bullying. You've done nothing wrong, op. The way you've defended yourself is superhumanly calm, measured, and self-assured. You know you're not the awe. The only reason people are giving you shit is because they're having to deal with this bride's bullshit in the fallout and want you to just comply so they can be rid of her shit. You all seem to be Christians, so ask yourself this: would Christ insist someone to wear a wig to his wedding for uniformity? Or would he just be happy to be surrounded by family and friends coming together in love? From a universalist perspective, it's on the host to make guests feel welcome and appreciated. What she's demanding of you is the height of bad manners, and I am sad to see your family bowing to her unreasonable behavior. You are absolutely not in the wrong, dear. I wouldn't go to the wedding and I would go LC with your whole family. They're toxic. Am I the asshole for bringing my own food to a dinner party because the host always serves stuff I can't eat? So, I have a sensitive stomach and a long list of food intolerances, nothing life-threatening, just enough to make me very sick. My friend group does monthly dinners where one person hosts and cooks. I love these nights, but the host this month is known for not really caring about dietary needs. I told her ahead of time that I bring my own dish just so I didn't have to stress, and she said, sure, whatever. So I showed up with my container of food, didn't make a big deal, served myself, and joined everyone at the table. Apparently, she got offended. After dinner, she pulled me aside and said I was disrespectful and insulting her cooking, and that if I didn't trust her, I shouldn't have come. I was honestly confused. I told her ahead of time and wasn't dramatic about it. Now a couple of mutual friends are telling me I should have just skipped the dinner instead of making it weird. But I feel like I did the most respectful thing I could. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. My best friend has to follow a low FODMAP diet. If you don't know, it sucks. No onion, garlic, etc. She's also sensitive to gluten and dairy. Guess what? I have gluten-free flour stashed at my house. When I know she's coming over, I make sure I have at least something she can eat or make sure we can order something for her. She oftentimes brings her own snacks places to ensure she doesn't go hungry in cases of unaware of her allergies and sensitivities. You did everything you could. And I'm curious, did she make something you could eat in the end? Because if not, she just literally proved her point about not being able to trust her. Not the asshole. You asked in advance. She agreed. That should have been the end of it. Had you shown up with your own food without telling her, I could see why she would be upset. But that isn't what happened here. Not the asshole. You are never the asshole for taking care of your body, and you even talked to her before. But maybe find new friends, cause they don't act like friends but Oz. I told her ahead of time that I bring my own dish just so I didn't have to stress, and she said, sure, whatever. I suppose she could have meant this dismissively, but that's not on you to decipher. It seems you took it at face value, which is fair, assuming there isn't missing context. Now a couple of mutual friends are telling me I should have just skipped the dinner instead of making it weird. Are they suggesting you should have skipped eating while there, or the gathering altogether? I feel either of those options would make it weird or lol. As of now, not the asshole. Not the asshole. My best friend has to avoid so many things. She has to bring food everywhere in public and people's homes. It's not a big deal. We want her there and we want her to be able to eat. Maybe Reddit makes me too suspicious, but this feels almost like a setup. Like, go ahead and do that thing I said was okay, but secretly you should know it's not okay if you're really a good friend. Like a test. It is perfectly fine to bring food you can eat. It was courteous of you to ask, but if she has a history of ignoring your needs and those of others, I don't even think that was required. Your friend group gets together to see each other and you participated in a way that was safe for you. Maybe she felt weird because her insensitivity to your needs was more obvious in that moment. If so, good. Not the asshole. Am I the asshole for telling my spouse I needed 30 minutes alone when they just got back from a trip? My spouse, 33F, and I, 35F, have 2 kids, 2 and 4. My spouse was recently away for 4 days for work. My parents were here while she was away, leaving about 8 hours before she was back. Having them around is probably net helpful but is also draining as they are high conflict, and my dad in particular often makes demands, asks questions at inopportune times. The other context is that we have had guests staying for all but 5 days for the last month, and my father-in-law was flying back with my spouse to stay. He is nice but doesn't help, e.g. generally doesn't clean up unless explicitly asked. Anyway, at 7 p.m., I started getting the kids ready for bed. By 8:30, the eldest was still awake, pulling various delay tactics, and announced she was hungry. At this point I was annoyed as I still needed to clean up downstairs before my spouse and father-in-law arrived. My spouse texted me at that exact moment to state, "Just landed. Kids sleeping?" I responded, "I have been trying to get kid asleep for 90 minutes but she's still awake. I suck." Clearly I should have said, "Welcome back." But I felt like I had failed at my one task and was overwhelmed at the possibility of more hosting without a break. My spouse said, "She's probably just excited," to which I responded, "I just wanted like 30 minutes alone without hosting someone." At this point, my spouse interpreted this as me not wanting her to come back. I apologized and explained that this was totally unrelated to her and I just wanted a break before hosting her dad, but she insists on seeing it as me not wanting her home and is now basically not speaking to me except about administrative things. I realize I should have said, "Welcome back," but also expected her to be more understanding of how draining and 2 little kids is. So am I the asshole? Not the asshole. She lives there so you aren't hosting her, so I'm confused on her anger. Being alone, even with your parents you are still the only parent there, taking care of 2 kids, especially young ones is hard. When I get back from being away or my partner does we both give the other person time alone when we get back so they can reset like we were able to even if it's just a short period of time. You do need to say no to guests if that is an issue. I don't think anyone is the asshole here but everyone needs to communicate better. Not the asshole. Could you have said it better? Sure, but if the text said, "I just need 30 minutes alone without hosting," then that means anyone outside of your immediate family. Why are you both hosting so much anyways? You both probably need a break from it. Edit. Autocorrect was weird so I fixed it. Not the asshole. There was nothing wrong with your reply and your spouse should have accepted your explanation rather than insisting on interpreting it as a reason to be offended. My spouse and I both traveled for work when we had 3 under 5 and whoever traveled understood their job was to swoop in and immediately give the non-traveling spouse a break when they got home. Are you sure your parents are the only high-conflict people in your family? You don't host someone who lives there. Clearly you weren't talking about her. She's being drama here, not the asshole. Not the asshole for your particular response to your wife, but you need to communicate better. These people aren't coming to your house without invites, just say no to guests. Nah, your feelings are totally understandable. You were drained and frustrated and just wanted a few minutes to yourself before having to do the next thing, and your message reflected that frustration. None of us are at our best when we're overwhelmed. Meanwhile, your wife was excited to come home and see your family again. Instead of, "Welcome back, can't wait to see you," she got a cranky message. Her feelings of disappointment are also understandable. Nobody here is an AH. It was just less than ideal circumstances. Am I the asshole for blowing up at my sister for naming her daughter after a fungal infection? So Mike, 20M, sister, 27F, and her husband had been struggling a lot with baby names. She was determined to find the single perfect name even by the time of her baby shower. Nearly 5 weeks before the due date, she didn't seem any closer to picking something out than she was at the start of her pregnancy. Anyway, I knew she was struggling, so in addition to the $900 wooden crib on her list that I got for her, I gave her a list of, obviously, joke baby names. We have a really close relationship, and it was in line with both our senses of humor. She's a nurse, and I'm a biology student, so all the names were medications, infections, unpleasant animals, etc., that all sound like lovely girls' names out of context. Some of them were a little bit obscure, sure, but I included some obvious ones like Viagra and hernia, for good measure. 2 weeks later, she told me she and her husband had finally settled on a name. Malassezia. The baby's name is Malassezia, one of the names on my joke list. Outside of the immediate issues, nearly impossible to pronounce on the first try, The ass, smack dab at the middle of it, the first syllable being mal, literally meaning bad or evil. It's also the name of a very common fungal infection. One that my sister and I are both genetically predisposed to. One that we've both had multiple times throughout our lives. Her daughter will almost certainly catch it at some time. I pointed it out to her, and she said that yes, she knew what it meant, and she knew my list was intended to be a joke, but she just really liked the way it sounded. I don't think the husband knows what it means. I think he'd reject it if he did. She says that it's so obscure that no one will ever think twice about it. Except, when little baby Malassezia turns 14, finds a weird spot on her neck, and goes on her phone to Google what it is. I told her that the name was completely unacceptable, and I was shocked that she chose it. I even suggested some similar names, like Mallory, Azalea, or Anastasia, that would be more acceptable, but she wouldn't hear it. She said that since I'm not one of the parents, I have no business telling her what she can and cannot name her child, and that I'm stepping way out of line. I think it's pregnancy hormones, and she'll regret the decision very soon after her daughter is born. Not the asshole. I share your frustration and you're looking out for your niece. While your sis is right that it's her parental right, you're not stepping out of line your family and you're cautioning her. Reminds me of a girl in my class back in elementary school whom had a unique name, Spontaneous. That was her name. We were all fine with it until 6th grade, when that was one of the words we were taught. You can imagine what chaos ensued for the poor girl. Also, Malassezia sounds like a Disney villain. Question. Would the hospital allow that name? I know people choose unique names for children, but could you really name your child Chlamydia? That's not considered emotional abuse? Not the asshole. Just tell the husband what it means. He'll shut it down. Is it possible your sister is trolling you back about the baby name? Most of my friends and family have had no idea what baby name they liked until the baby arrived, and some still struggled. There is no rule you have to know what name you'll choose to name the baby prior to arrival. Hell, my parents named my sister, forgot what they named her when filling out paperwork and named her something different. In TA it's bad. Worse, no obvious short form. I knew someone whose initials were gas. I personally didn't notice my signature reads as RC Jones, R. Circa Jones. Dude, she's pranking you. She messing with you.